We are now calling to order the April 21st, 2026 Woodinville City Council meeting. Can we get the roll call, please?
Councilmember Evans.
Present.
Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Randolph.
Present.
Mayor Arndt.
Here.
Councilmember Wise.
Here.
Councilmember Millman.
Here.
And Councilmember Taylor.
Please join me for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I move to accept the agenda in order and content.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We have no special presentations this evening. We will now move to public comment. And we had no virtual comments this evening.
Wait, did you say public comments?
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
the clerk is bringing it up. When I call your name, please come to the podium. You will have 3 minutes. Please state your name and whether or not you live in city limits. First up, we have Doug Erickson.
Hello, I'm Doug Erickson. I live in Woodinville, but not Woodinville city limits. I'm here tonight to challenge the requirements for being in the city limits to be on the Planning Commission. As an example of that, I'd like to use myself. I live a block away from the city limits. My wife and I moved out here in 1987. I'm an architect. I've practiced over 35 years. I've been involved in planning. My schooling at MIT and Harvard, we did planning issues there. I've done stuff overseas in the Middle East. So I've got experience, and you want people that are part of the community. I'm a block away. I'm the fabric in this community. I go to shopping here. My kids go to school. My wife is buried here. This is a part of me, and I like to use my background and collaborate with the city because this is a great city. There's a lot. This is going to be a good city, and I would like to be a part of that. And I'm not traveling anymore. I'm local. I'm here and willing to support and provide my background and you know, as part of the planning process and grow with the community. So I think that I'm as qualified as somebody living in the city limits, even though I'm only a block away. I think the requirements ought to be a zip code. That's my zip code, and the cemetery, their requirements are the zip code, and so it's already in place. And I think by having that, you've got a greater capacity of getting more people involved at a larger scale, and I think that's only an advantage to the city of Woodinville to have that bigger group of people to choose from. So I'd like to present that, and here I am.
Mr. Erickson, I thank you for your interest in working with the city, and I applaud that you're enthusiastic about participating with the Planning Commission. I'm sorry that your application was not able to be considered because of our ordinance restricting it to those who are inside city limits, and I would encourage you to have a conversation with any of the council members here about ways that we could get you more involved.
Is my 3 minutes up?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Arthur Weiner.
Good evening, council members. My name is Arthur Weiner. I do not live in the city of Woodinville. I live in Redmond. I am here tonight as I am the Chief Financial Officer of Woodinville Whiskey Company. Woodinville, if you're not familiar, Woodinville Whiskey is the story of two best friends, founded by Brett Carlisle and Orland Sorensen, two local gentlemen who started Woodinville, built on a dream. We have been located at the current location across the street from the old Columbia Winery, sharing the property with the Hollywood Tavern, and across the street from what was Chateau Saint Michel. As I understand, there is a roundabout that is going to be constructed at the intersection of State Route 202 and 145th. This roundabout, as currently designed, will dramatically impact our business and operational flow. We have worked with the city to propose some changes for a mountable curb that a truck, semi, would be able to turn left coming from the south into our southernmost entrance. I'm here tonight to ask the city to champion the changes with the Department of Transportation. We really need the city's help and participation to prevent fairly egregious interruption to our business. So I'm here tonight to ask the city to continue to investigate it, and more importantly, to champion the changes that, as I understand, are designed, approved by the city, but haven't been submitted to the state yet. My main overall point is please champion the changes that we have requested so that we don't have a tremendous interruption to our business operation at Woodinville Whiskey Company. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Weiner. I reached out late last week to Orland Sorensen and Cody Rawson.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And I asked them, I'm the person who works most closely with the business community, and I said at that time, if you need any help, please reach out. I'm happy to come meet with you. I'm happy to meet with the city. So, you're members of the chamber, you're valued members of our community. We are here to help, so please reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bobby Amiri.
Good evening, council members. My name is Bobby Amiri, and I live in Woodinville more than almost 4 decades, if it's not more. I have spoken here many times over the years about our private roads standards, and I want to briefly restate why this matters. It is no secret that Woodinville needs more housing. Yet, the city current private road regulations are among the most restrictive in the state. The 4-home limit on private street prevent small-scale infill, even in areas where access and utilities exist. Staff is currently working on proposed regulations to address this issue, and those changes should come before you in coming months. This makes it a critical moment to get the direction right. The goal should be clear: reduce barriers, not replace them with new ones. These updates should work for everyone, not just large projects or as workaround for development-constrained downtown. This is a key opportunity for city to take meaningful steps toward expanding housing in practical increment way. I encourage you to keep focus as you move these regulations forward. I've been saying that for almost for 2 years. We need housing, but please, look at it carefully. We need infrastructure. And you know about parkings. You're all intelligent. You all know it. And we can have better people than you. I've been problem solver all my life. And I've been advocating many years. Please. Not only I'm advocating for myself, of course, I'm advocating for lots of other people. I have children, I have grandchildren. It's opportunity for me, and it's opportunity for others. You need to look at it more careful. That's all I'm asking. Please reach out and solve this problem, and I would appreciate that. Thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up this evening. If there was anyone else who'd like to make comment, please come forward, state your name.
Hi, I'm Janet Monda. I live in city limits, and I've been in the city since 1987 also. I'm here to talk to you and thank you for the pickleball courts that we have at Wooden Creek. 11 years ago, I was introduced to pickleball, a game that is a lot of fun and a great way to meet people, socialize, and exercise. It is now very popular, and available courts are often in short supply. A few years ago, when asked what my concerns were for the city, I mentioned one concern was a lack of outdoor pickleball courts. At that time, I was driving to Bothell and Redmond and Bellevue and Edmonds and even Snohomish to play, because many of our indoor courts are closed for children's daycare activities during the summer. So I met Roy through pickleball, and with Roy's involvement with the Parks and Public Spaces, that helped us find a way to have the tennis court at Wooden Creek Park striped for 2 pickleball courts, with the help of the Kiwanis Group and then Mayor Mike Millman. We have used those courts a lot since that time, a group of us playing almost every morning in the summer. Sometimes with over 30 of us there, it is a long wait between games. We play open play games where anyone can join us if they like, and a lot of other groups also use those courts at other times. We currently bring nets, and mine is very heavy to carry, so that's been a bit of an issue. We now have a storage locker, so thank you for that. In the very best scenario, it would be great to have rolling nets that could stay on the court for anyone to use at any time, and those roll out of the way for tennis. Since the sport is rapidly growing and many new players would like to learn, this would be ideal. And if the council is considering that option, we would be very grateful, as it would make the use of the court more inclusive. In conclusion, we're very happy with the resurfacing and expansion of the facility and wanted to let you know how much we appreciate the plans for improving Wooden Creek. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Sharon Daub, and I'm a visitor to your city from Bothell. Probably visit 5 times a week. I'm here just to say heartfelt thanks for all you've done in this community. I like it here a lot. I go to Gateway Park and Wooden Creek Park. I too play pickleball. The neighbors I've come to know and love, and the pizza place and shopping and pickleball, I just wanted to give you my heartfelt thanks. And I'm also hoping that the porta potty comes back. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now going to move on to the consent calendar.
I move to accept the consent calendar as written.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And we will move on to our first business item this evening, which is the appointment of a new planning commissioner. We have 2 applicants who are being considered this evening, one of whom is here in person in council chambers and one of whom is online. And council may remember that we did officially lay out a standard practice for appointing commissioners. So this evening we will be following that. I will be reading through this so that we stay on track and we can duplicate the process at all appointments moving forward. So we will have interviews. Each applicant will be asked 1 question from each council member. They will be asked the same questions, and then we will go through the nomination and the voting process for this seat. We are always really excited when we have community members who are interested in serving our community through being part of one of our commissions. And so it is always a difficult choice when we are making these, because we have to turn away interested and capable individuals who want to just serve their community. So this evening, we will start our interview with our online applicant, Mr. Sweet, and I will ask our other applicant, Holly Munchow, to please wait in our lobby.
Hi, everyone. This is Keen. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can. We can. Thank you. And thank you for taking the time. I know that you have a little bit of a time constraint this evening. Yes, I assume that you heard the process we're going through. Each council member will have the opportunity to ask you a question, and then it will be very straightforward. You'll have the opportunity to address them. And we will go...
Yeah, and thank you for accommodating the remote appearance. I would normally be there in person, but it was a work commitment, and this came up quickly, and I wanted to make sure and interview. So thank you for accommodating me.
Yes, we are happy to accommodate as possible. We will go in order of the dais seating. So Councilmember Evans, you can go first, please.
Great, thank you. Mr. Sweet, if you could change one thing over the past few years that the city has done, what would it be, and what would you have done differently?
You know, I figured I might get this question. I think, so first of all, I actually don't think that revisionist sort of looking back and wanting to do things differently would necessarily result in anything different. I think you have to look at these things on a forward-looking basis, pragmatically. I do think just walking downtown, there's some vacancies in some of the retail spaces, and I don't know the cause of that, but I think what I would do is look at the cause of the vacancies and consider that in any forward-going decision-making. That'd probably be the way that I would respond to that. I think balancing out, the businesses and vacancies and housing and traffic is the role of the Planning Commission, and it may be that we got that a little bit wrong in some of these cases. So I would go back and look at what the cause of that was.
Thank you. Councilmember Edwards.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Can you tell us a little bit about how your lived or professional experience has prepared you to be an effective planning commissioner?
Yes, absolutely. So I currently work in tech, like many of us do here in the local area, but I grew up in Spokane. I spent roughly 2 decades in a family business. We did site development and landscaping and public works for cities, counties, state, and federal agencies. And the whole reason that I'm interviewing for this is that Charles Venley, who sits on another commission, encouraged me to take that experience and apply it toward my local community, which is Woodinville. So I guess for lack of a better word, lots of on-the-ground experience with development and balancing out things like zoning and codes.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks for being here this evening. One of the most important parts of Planning Commission in Woodinville is managing land use. That means having an ability to manage growth without straining our infrastructure. Given your current knowledge of our city, how do you plan to balance these sometimes conflicting interests?
That's a great question. I had a chance actually to review the comprehensive plan, and I tend to agree with the basic tenets, which is we have a mandate, a statutory obligation to accommodate growth in our city, so we have to plan for it. And the question is, how do we do that without damaging the kind of woodland character that we have in Woodinville? And I think the comprehensive plan, as I understand it, prioritizes growth and density in the core, in the downtown area, and in some of these adjacent areas like the new East Rail development. And I think that is the right move, right? I mean, any of us that live in Woodinville, I myself live in a suburban, kind of R1 type suburban neighborhood just near the high school, appreciates what we have, right? Which is space and cul-de-sacs and lots of tree cover. So I think the way I would approach that is, roughly speaking, stick with the comprehensive plan as it's written. But I think we have some pretty tough decisions coming up in terms of how to balance things like livability and traffic and affordability while accommodating that growth in our urban core.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wise.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. You've kind of pieced it together a little bit, but could you tell us a little bit more about like yourself, your interests, and like your involvement in the city of Woodinville?
Yeah, I wanted to start there. So I'm a father of two young boys. They're 4 and 7. I live near the high school. We've been a resident since 2018. I've seen just a tremendous amount of growth in that time. To be honest with you, I haven't had a chance to really get that involved in the city. I've coached soccer for my son down there at the fields. I've done that for other kids as well. My wife owns a counseling business near downtown within the Woodinville city limits. So we're very much kind of a part of the community, I mean, in every sense imaginable. It's just that any of you who are parents may understand there hasn't been a whole lot of time to step out and give back maybe in the way that I've wanted to. I do have that time now.
Thank you. Councilmember Millman.
Thank you. And I wanted to thank you for your willingness to step up and volunteer for this important commission. My question is, one of the biggest challenges Woodinville faces is the need and the state mandate in the GMA for affordable housing. Tell us your perspective on affordable housing, how and where Woodinville can reach its numbers, and what in your background would help you with those land use decisions.
Yeah, I guess one thing that's on my resume that may not be immediately apparent, I've actually been a landlord, still am a landlord, so, familiar with, multi-tenant type housing. Also been involved in projects that carve out affordable housing, mostly in the Spokane area. Again, I think in line with the comprehensive plan, I think there's a provision, right, for middle housing, right? So looking at duplexes and triplexes in the core, adjacent to the core, that allow that density to be built out and drive down housing costs, while at the same time not upending the kind of woodland character that we have in the rest of Woodinville. So that would be my approach. I need to read the specifics, I guess, on the development projects that are currently in consideration. I know there's some debate about, for instance, allowing street level housing or any variances that would allow developers to go up a story more than our code allows. So to be honest with you, I'm a pretty pragmatic person. I want to read all the details on the way that we've built out, zoning and codes, and where it's necessary to vary from that, right? The city would have to get something back. And, one of the things that we could get back is things like affordability.
Thank you. Councilmember Taylor.
I have no questions. Thank you for applying.
I think Councilmember Taylor is having difficulty with his microphone, but he said that he does not have a question. You got it now?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thank you for applying.
Thank you. And I will finish us out with your last question here. Oftentimes when we're considering things like density, height, and affordability, we're considering them in terms of trade-offs. And I'm curious what your approach to those trade-offs might be.
You know, I guess once I got out of the construction industry, I have, my entire career actually has been to do precisely that, right? Take input from lots of different stakeholders, lots of different competing interests, weigh them pragmatically and coming up and essentially come up with the maximal value for everyone involved. So how would I weigh that? Well, it depends what the give and get is. So if we are going to make any kind of major considerations to, say, for instance, zoning or to code, then the payback for the city would have to be equal and commensurate. So it would have to come back to, as I said before, things like additional affordable housing, investments in our public spaces like parks, addition of parking, or things like that measurably give back to the community. So I would look at all of that like in total and holistically and evaluate what we're getting in return for any kind of variance. But I think, my job really on this planning commission will be to interpret the comprehensive plan and to not inject, any kind of agenda outside of that. So wherever possible, it's to maintain that. But as I said, I came from the construction world. I know that once you get on the ground, there are always pragmatic considerations to these things.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. You're welcome to listen in on the second candidate's interview. We understand that you do have a time constraint, so if you need to leave, we will just continue to proceed with the voting at that point. But thank you very much for your answers.
Yeah, I can hang on for a few minutes. Thank you for your time, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Commissioner Munchow, please come forward. We will repeat our questions, whatever you're comfortable with. Councilmember Evans.
Great, thank you. Welcome in tonight. If you could change one thing over the past few years that the city has done, what would it be, and what would you have done differently?
That's a hard question, actually. If I could change one thing. I actually I'm going to a little bit cheat and go a little farther back, which I wish we had engaged more with public transportation years ago. I know we've done a much better job engaging with them in more recent years, and so our public transportation has improved a lot in the last 2 years. But when I first, for example, moved into my house by Woodinville High School, there was a bus that stopped right there, and then it got canceled within like 2 years of me moving in, and totally destroyed my possible idea of commuting by bus to work. Luckily, we now have a bus back at that stop, but that just started again in the last year. But yeah, so I think that I would love to see us invest more in public transportation.
Councilmember Edwards.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Can you tell us a little bit about how your lived or professional experience has prepared you to be an effective planning commissioner?
I think maybe not traditional experience, but I think a parent makes a big difference. You learn so much about parenting around strategic planning, believe it or not, and also just managing the day-to-day, and seeing how those strategies play out in the long term in a way that I think oftentimes you don't get opportunities to in the professional field. But I also served for 15 years at Microsoft. Towards the end, I did compliance and security response, so ensuring that we met all of our legal requirements for all of our releases, something for a product that got installed on 1 million machines every time we shipped a patch within a week. So it was intense to try and make sure we hit those quality and compliance goals. And so that also sort of helped me focus on sort of the critical pieces and recognizing sometimes too when there's negotiation that can happen, right? Like you need to make sure you meet the law. And if there's going to be some challenges meeting the letter of the law, how do you sit down at the table and figure out a negotiation so that the people who are implementing it are good with your plan?
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks for being here this evening. One of the most important parts of Planning Commission in Woodinville is managing land use. That means having the ability to manage growth without straining our infrastructure. Given your current knowledge of our city, how do you plan to balance these sometimes conflicting interests?
Listening. I think that's an area where I feel like I have a lot to learn. So that's a place where I would be really going out and looking for feedback about how it's going to impact the day-to-day, right? Like the people on the ground, what's the lack of infrastructure going to mean? What are the maintenance costs going to be, which is often something people don't take into long-term thinking. Because we don't want to create something that's going to work great for 5 years, and then 5 years from now, suddenly we're going to have to replace and pay all over again. And you know, I grew up in Seattle, and sort of around my early adulthood, whatever, was sort of priced out. My parents were also priced out of the neighborhood that we grew up in, so I've definitely seen that. So I also want to balance that need to sort of keep people in their homes, and so that does mean sometimes pushing forward with lower quality things just to make things affordable. And so definitely recognizing both that we want to have those low maintenance and those high quality things, but also recognizing that we want to make sure that we keep those prices down so that people can afford to live here.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wise.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your involvement in the city?
Yes, I am a public spaces commissioner, and I was coming up here, boy, I really should have looked up my start date. It's been over 2 years, maybe 3, I'm not sure. And so I've really enjoyed getting to know how the public spaces parks function and all the pieces of the city that we oversee in public spaces. And kind of after 2 years of getting to know it, I kind of wanted to learn more and get to know the city a little bit more. I'm also active in various other community groups and supporting our city, mostly through the schools, but elsewhere.
Councilmember Millman.
Thank you for coming. Your willingness to volunteer for Planning Commission, appreciate that. One of the biggest challenges Woodinville faces is the need and state mandate in the GMA for affordable housing. Tell us your perspective on this and how and where Woodinville can reach its numbers, and what in your background would help us with that?
Again, this is an area where I'm looking to grow more and learn more, but I do think my passion for making sure as a parent of 3 kids, I got one about to graduate from Woodinville High School this year. You know, I want them to be able to afford to live in neighborhoods like this too. And so I know that means building more housing. And I think the biggest piece is that with that additional growth comes a lot of change, and that can be hard for this community. And so the biggest way that I hope to contribute to it is about going out and helping to focus on the positive that change brings, whether that's increased public transportation or a new Trader Joe's that maybe we wouldn't have get if we didn't have the population, you know, or, you know, all the services and benefits that come with more people, I think is important, and just affordability, right? Because like people so often focus on that change or that new development that took down the whatever it is that they loved, right? And that's hard. But so it takes a lot of sort of going out into the community and having those conversations and helping people walk through that change and focusing on the positive that comes with it too.
Thank you. Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you for applying. I have no questions tonight.
Thank you.
And my question is, often when we're having conversations about things like density, height, and affordability. We're approaching those as trade-offs. And I'm interested in what your approach to balancing those trade-offs would be.
That's a really good question. A little bit case to case. I feel like sometimes in these situations, the devil is in the details, right? And so it's hard when it comes to zoning. So it'd be really interesting to walk through some of the spaces where we've made those trade-offs to really look at what that would look like from developers who might be realistic in our area. I think one piece that I care deeply about is safety. And so I'm super curious about how those various approaches impact safety and also impact the infrastructure costs as well, right? Because if you're gonna need more roads, then that's obviously gonna be a different infrastructure need. Yeah, with the height, I always worry about. I know they're supposed to be to spec, but still. I want to know that they're doing it high quality for safety. I know that's kind of weird.
Thank you. I think that concludes our questions for this evening. Now is when I go to my written script. For this Planning Commissioner position number 300, nominations will be made from the floor. Council members do not need to be recognized by the presiding officer to make a nomination, and no second is required. The vote will be taken for position 300 by going down the dais and stating the name of the candidate who has been nominated that you wish to put your vote for. So that is the process we will undertake. So I am now opening the floor for nominations.
I nominate Keen Sweet. I nominate Holly Munchow.
Are there any further? I guess we don't need any further nominations. This is where the script leads you wrong. All right. Seeing no further need for nominations, nominations are now closed. It's an open election to conduct by roll call vote. When called upon, please state the name of the nominee for which you're casting your vote. And vote will be taken by position number, and Madam Clerk will do the roll call, please.
Point of order, can I just clarify quickly?
Yes.
So we're having no discussion at all?
No.
Okay.
Councilmember Evans?
Holly Munchow, please.
Councilmember Edwards?
Holly Munchow.
Councilmember Wise?
Holly Munchow.
Councilmember Millman?
Ms. Munchow.
Mayor Arndt?
Mr. Sweet.
Councilmember Taylor?
Keen Sweet.
Deputy Mayor Randolph?
Keen Sweet.
We have 4 votes for Holly Munchow. Holly Munchow is now appointed Planning Commissioner for position number 300. Congratulations, Holly. And Mr. Sweet is no longer in the meeting, but again, thank you for your application, and we would encourage you to apply again for a future opening. We will now move on to business item number 10, which is the public hearing, first reading, waive second reading, and adoption of ordinance number 808, extending for an additional 6 months the interim inclusionary zoning regulations.
All right, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. As mentioned, this is a public hearing for ordinance 808, extending interim development regulations regarding inclusionary zoning. And it looks like I'm having a breakdown in my computer here because I can't get the screen up here to come down. It's not going to move forward here. So I think I'm just going to stop sharing We've already had this is the second extension on this ordinance. Originally, it was adopted about a year and a half ago. Well, actually about a year ago. And currently, the Planning Commission is working on permanent inclusionary zoning per the work plan and council's direction. But we do need a little bit more time in order to be able to complete that work. And so this is what's being requested tonight, is for the public hearing and a council vote to extend it for another 6 months. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Mr. Grumbaugh? Councilmember Evans?
Do we have an approximate timeline when we think we'll get through that, just based on the current work plan?
We're working on it right now. I couldn't give you anything exact other than we're working on it right now with the Planning Commission, and we've got some issues we've got to work through before we'll be ready to bring this to the council.
Okay, thank you for all the work going into this. I know it's a lot of detail to go through, and there's just a lot of things to weigh, so we appreciate your time on this.
Any further questions?
I move to open public hearing and accept public testimony on ordinance number 808.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Public hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, do we have any? No? We have no one signed up for public comment.
I move to close the public hearing for
Second.
number 808.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Well, given no public comments, I move to pass first reading, waive second reading, and adopt ordinance number 808, extending for an additional 6 months the interim inclusionary zoning regulations originally adopted under number 786, now passed as 808.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Sorry, sir, this is, the public hearing is now closed. Thank you. Motion, no discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. All right. Moving on to business item 11, approval of recommended capital improvement plan project list.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Council. We are here again to present the next series of presentation on Capital Improvement Plan 2732, and specifically here to present the recommended project list. And so with that, Joshua Jeffrey, who's the Public Works Management Analyst, will take the lead on presenting this item. Joshua Jeffrey and Janet Loris, our Capital Projects Manager, are taking the lead in putting the capital improvement plan together. So in terms of just today's what the objective is, I wanted to make sure we address and clarify that, is to present the recommended draft project list, which is of course in your staff report as well. Make modification as needed. The important part here is we are looking for council's approval in approving the draft project list. It's not for prioritizing the list. There's no funding associated with it right now. It is just to approve the project list so that we can move on to the next steps. And the next steps would be the transportation improvement plan adoption, which will come to council in the next couple of meetings, either May or June. And by having the project list approved, we can work on the next phase, which is to refine the scope of work, the description of the project, start working on the estimates for the project, and of course, pull the budget projections that the finance department will help us pull that thing together, and of course, bringing everything together and creating the draft CIP. So I wanted to make sure that the objective of today's meeting was clear as to approving the project list. And as I'll transfer it over to Joshua, we will go through the project list. The intent is not to go through every project, but of course browse through the categories. And if there are any projects that we will highlight the ones that are new or are significant or have potential impacts. So just wanted to set the stage for the presentation.
Thank you so much. So how did we get to here today? So we've had a robust project nomination period. Then we took the public's ideas, analyzed them, and now what we're really in that stage of where we're trying to formulate the draft, come up with the initial plan, develop that funding estimates that will then be formalized before it eventually is adopted along with the 6-year budget and the budget for the next 2 years as well. And a key part of this is that it's been very much informed by public participation. This process started with the public's input and is going to continue with the public's input as we move through this plan and ultimately to adoption. So to kind of summarize what that participation has looked like, we launched our public survey in January, where we ran a form that we allowed the public to submit their ideas and to let us know what concerns they might have had. We advertised that survey in the newsletter, and we also advertised it regularly in social media. During that same time, we presented this to the Council and Public Spaces Commission and Plan Commission to both share this process as well as to help get some more eyes on this survey and what we've been doing. So from there, we had 51 project submissions for 39 unique projects. And just to kind of put a comparison out there, we had 20 total submissions during the last CIP plan review cycle. So this is quite a significant jump in terms of participation. They varied in terms of content. And so when we kind of looked at what that did, we did an initial cut where we looked at the responses. Some of them were from another jurisdiction, several of them from outside some city limits, a handful from around from the private and HOAs, and we really kind of cut those down into actionable projects, and then we filtered those through and tried to refine a little bit of those descriptions a little bit more into what we would call those actionable projects. So that really generated 15 new projects for consideration that we then took as staff and did the scoring matrix and evaluation matrix that was part of the agenda packet that you saw, where we look through each of these to kind of give a sense of where they range in priorities and to try to take an objective look at them. So what does this project list now include? So it includes all the projects that are in progress from 2025 to 2026. It includes projects for which closeout will be carried over into the next cycle. So that may be ones that the construction completes this year, but for which we still might have some punch list items that need to take place. Then it also includes all the projects that were previously allocated funding, whether grant or locally funded. Those ones are considered non-discretionary and we don't reprioritize those. And then we also included the vast majority of projects from the CIP cycle that was in 2025 to 2030. What did we really remove? We removed anything that we anticipated completion in. We removed a couple projects that where we've heard some previous council direction that we may have gone in a different direction for it. We removed duplicate projects, as well as any ones that we found kind of not feasible or did not meet the definition of a capital project. And to refresh everyone's memory, a capital project is one that's over $50,000 in value and is not considered a regular maintenance project. So that got us to our list. And so this is kind of the overall summary of what it is. Looking through, I won't spend too much time on here, but you can see in the ongoing projects we have about 20, and then looking forward to the new and current projects, there's about 55 new projects that are or current projects that are being kind of brought together for a total of 75 projects within this CIP project list. And I believe Director DeSouza would like to speak a little bit on this.
Sure. So this is the project list that we had included in the packet. So we are just putting this more visual on maps, and also we have categorized this project list into 2 or 3 categories just to make it efficient in terms of the process itself, how to go through the project list. So as Joshua mentioned, there were some projects that are ongoing, that is currently active and in progress, and then there are also a couple of them that are upcoming projects. Upcoming projects, for example, ongoing, of course, council is aware of all the projects that the city is working, and of course they are listed here as well. But there are also some upcoming projects that we have not started this year, but it's part of the biennium and will be kicked off later this year or into next year. One of the examples is removal of rails and signals that we have not done. There are a couple of crossings that we need to remove. I just wanted to give that as an example. And I think and there's also a new project that I wanted to mention, which I believe Mr. Jared Hill had mentioned about this in his update. And this was the Public Workshop Emergency Operations Center Backup Battery Power, battery emergency storage. We are waiting for grant acceptance that will bring to council and of course get on with that project. So these are ongoing and upcoming projects that you see here on this list. So I will pause for a few seconds just to kind of see if there are any questions or comments or feedback on this before I go to the next category of our projects.
Councilmember Evans.
My feedback is thank you for this. I love the color coding. This makes it really easy. I hope to see this exact slide up on Project Woodinville because this is really helpful for everybody in the community to see, and the color coding makes it so much easier. So thank you for your work on this, Joshua. I think you probably did this.
And I wanted Josh to take the credit on this one. We also have amazing GIS staff that actually have put this maps together. So I wanted to make sure they get credit on the map. Josh, of course, helped with the process. I did want to mention, and it is in the staff report, is that as part of our public participation outreach, our intent is to, of course, put this on project website and also reach out to everyone that submitted the submissions and show them what projects were included, how they were included as well. So we stay engaged with the folks that are engaged and want to be part of this process.
Councilmember Millman.
I appreciate that. That was kind of my question. So the people who commented, and I saw there was a 15 or 12 or something that had submitted suggestions that were already on the CIP. Did we respond to them, telling them that we already have that and appreciated their response?
So that will be after this meeting today, once we have the project list approved, so we can put the project list, share the project list along with our response to them. But that is the idea after the meeting today.
Thank you.
So those were the reason we wanted to pause before I open the next category is those are the projects that are ongoing, and so there's no prioritization or any discussion in terms of needed because staff is already working on those. So the next categories of the projects are the ones where we would love to get feedback and answer any questions or comments you have. Of course, review the newly submitted projects if there are any specific projects that you want us to look at. And then the process is, of course, at the end of each category, hopefully there's a consensus on the project itself. And of course, after the project list is reviewed, we would love to take a recommended motion on approving the full project list. So these are the projects that are recommended for inclusion. This is the total list. We have also gone a step further in terms of recommended for inclusion in a 2-year and an inclusion in a 6-year. And as you see, and again, this is all the street projects, which is different slightly different than how it is presented in your staff report, but we wanted to focus in on each division and show you the number of projects that are on the list. The majority of the ones that are recommended for inclusion in two-year cycle, they're capacity projects and safety projects. So the goal is to hopefully, as you saw on the previous slide, we have a good number of projects that are still ongoing and upcoming, but the goal is to start planning for those projects in the next 2 years, in the next biennium. And then, of course, there are a list of projects that are in the 6-year CIP. This 6-year CIP, of course, 2 and 6-year CIP will become part of the transportation improvement plan that we'll bring to council for approval. And also, these are the ones that are here for potential funding opportunities as well. So with that, I will pause if there's any question or comments or anything at all, if this list looks good in terms of just the number of projects, that we would appreciate any feedback that you may have. And if there's any questions on any new projects, we can go over that as well.
Councilmember Evans.
Thank you. I appreciate all the work that has gone into this, and I just want to remind everybody, we're not funding these right now. We're getting them on a list. If grants or federal funds were to come available, if it's on the list, we can go after it. If it's not on the list, we can't. It's part of the reason we want to do that. We will, of course, budget cycle by budget cycle, continue to prioritize and put these in, but I'm really encouraged by the amount of public feedback that we got this time. And I'm really encouraged that people are starting to see that their feedback is showing up in real ways, and that we can then have really good discussions about where our next set of funding priorities should go. So personally, I'm fine keeping this list as is, because I think it's from the community. We've done our vetting. We're not funding these right now. It just gives us the opportunity in the future, if funding comes available, that it's here and ready to go.
And I will continue to give the credit as needed on, as appropriate as well. All the credit for public participation goes to Andrea and Joshua on this, so, and of course the project team. So, next, please. The next division is surface water. These are all the projects that are recommended to be on the project list. Majority of these projects have come from our surface water plan that we had put together, stormwater plan, the 20-year plan that we have put together. These address flooding. These address, majority of them are addressing flooding and also culvert enhancement that you see already. We are working on 134th. The other culvert project that we have included here is 195th and Little Bear Creek.
Any questions from council?
Okay, thank you. Moving on to another fund division, parks. We are seeing quite a few projects here as well. So the parks, we are already working on quite a few park projects this year, this biennium, but there are a few more added for next biennium, and then of course for the 6th year as well. There are a few projects here, the ones that you see titled as new. This could be something that would be a good feedback for the East Road project team, and we will continue to get that feedback and also include any feedback we get from here onto the for the East Road project as well.
I have a question just about that first item about unknown improvements to neighborhood parks. Can you talk a little bit more in detail what that means?
Absolutely. So this was more of a programmatic approach to our neighborhood parks. It is in our current 6-year CIP. However, it is not funded. And so I think during the last CIP process, the prioritization was to focus on the regional parks. I think the big one that you're seeing is Rotary Park, and that we are working on right now with the park playground and the restrooms remodeling as well. So this is the one where we are bringing to council's attention, bringing it back, which it was in a 6-year CIP, as we have heard from community in terms of them wanting some upgrades to Woodinville Heights Park, There are so this has been brought in and recommended to be in a two-year plan based on community feedback. But what this includes is, and this is up to council when we bring the funding and more project scope, is determining what level of funding do we want to put into our neighborhood parks. And this could be as simple as, do we want to add a few benches, or change the trash cans, or do we want to do irrigation, or are we here for the whole replacement for the playground equipment or access? So I think it's more, staff is looking at this more as a programmatic approach to addressing neighborhood parks.
I can just add a little bit to it. I think this has been we've talked about this idea in vague terms for a number of years, but haven't really nailed down what this program looks like. I know there's been different conversations, and I think really the Public Spaces Commission and ultimately the council needs to provide some guidance as we go through the budget process, and specifically what this, to Mr. Souza's point, what this programmatic approach could look like. So that could be different ideas we've talked about, where there's kind of a standard, very simple, straightforward treatment for all these kind of local neighborhood parks, where it's kind of a standard treatment that, not just making something up, a couple picnic tables and some landscaping, all the way to we've identified and council's approved a budget, for each kind of neighborhood park, and then we can work with that local neighborhood to identify within that budget what improvements they're looking for. So there's kind of different ways to go about that. We have never, despite conversations, we've never really kind of landed on one of those approaches and a corresponding budget. So I think that's, to your question, Madam Mayor, I don't know that we have a solid answer on it, but I think there's some options there that we'll need to talk through as we get into the budget process.
All right, thank you. I know we have talked about this at various points in time. I'm just trying to understand the project ID here will eventually represent a dollar figure that we then must have a policy on how we want to allocate it across the city. But it won't necessarily state a specific park with specific improvements in this form. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes. Thank you. I just want to make sure I understood that item. Councilmember Edwards.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the name kind of explains it, but I was curious if you can give me a description of what a bicycle pump track is.
This project has been also on the agenda or on the plan for a bit, and also it came back again with the community request as well. In terms of what it is that the question, what it was? I will let.
Yeah, I can speak to it. I know you're working. I mean, it's always one of the perpetual. I think it first came up, at least in my experience, back when we did the last pro plan years ago. But there's a lot of examples around. Duthie Hill is one that we hear a lot of. I know a smaller one in Redmond that's very popular for the local neighborhood, but it's effectively a dirt track with different hills that kids ride their bikes on, kind of a circular route. They can do jumps, or it's kind of a skill-based practice. They can get very, very simple, and they can get very complex depending on what kind of space is available and what sort of risk we want to take on as a city. But that's a different conversation. So again, it's something that is regularly requested by the community. We just have not done that. But in general, hopefully I've kind of described, a dirt track with hills that kids ride their bikes around.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions on this section?
In terms of facilities, we do have 3 projects for recommendation for inclusion in the 2-year biennium. And these are, a couple of them at least are definitely maintenance, but more, it exceeds the threshold for CIP. One is the concrete patio replacement right in front of the city council chambers right here. Other one is irrigation system modernization. I think that is we have a very complicated irrigation system for City Hall and also Wilmot Park, but they are pretty old, and it definitely requires big time upgrades, and we have been putting Band-Aids literally to just keep it going. And I think that for us to be more efficient, environmentally sustainable, it is time for us to more modernize these irrigation system. And so that is the project that has been recommended for a 2-year cycle.
Thank you. Councilmember Millman.
Yeah, thank you. The modernization, one thing that I've been hoping that we would do is rain sensors. Is that going to be part of the modernization?
Yes, it'll be part of the part of the project.
Great, thank you.
And just to add to that, Councilmember Millman, as we get the new, for example, on the roundabouts, as we get more newer irrigation system in place, then we are already including those sensors ahead of time. It's just the older system that we are not able to put those rain sensors as efficiently as possible. There's also another project, Tourist District parking lot. This council is very much aware of it. This is by Harvest, as part of the Harvest development, one of the lots. And we have not, this is part of this biennium. We have not kicked off that project in light of our current workload, but that will definitely be focused for us towards the end of this year, early next year.
Mr. City Manager, can you give us an update on that property, what its status was? It's been a while since we had heard anything.
Yeah, the parcel that we now own in the tourist district that Ms. D'Souza refers to, we do own it now. There was some delay in the paperwork as far as getting it recorded with the county, but that's all been cleared up now. Turns out one of the partners of the previous owner company hadn't paid the property taxes on it, so they had to get current on that, and that was prohibiting them from recording it, but it's ours now. We have 2 leases on the property, and I believe they go through, I think it's June right now, as we're trying to facilitate both of those tenants are moving to the new project once their spaces are done, and there's been some delays in there, so we're trying to help accommodate that. So I think right now, I think they go through June, and then we have some decisions we can make on that property.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please. And this is just the list of projects that were removed. Majority of these projects are complete, or a project have been accepted, or they were already included in the other CIP projects. I'm just looking at here. There are a few projects that are highlighted, are the ones that were requested by public. As you can see, the reasons for why they were removed, we're either going to be including that in Israel, already part of CIP, or either does not qualify as CIP as well. So this list also is here, and I will pause for a few seconds before we move on to the next slide for any questions you may have.
Deputy Mayor.
A few of these look like they may have been user presented. Did we respond to those users so they understand why those might not be considered as CIP projects?
And so as part of the process of giving the feedback on their submission, we will provide reasons for what it is. Yes, absolutely. I think that brings us to recommended motion.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none.
And don't feel like you need to add projects because we have 76 already. So,
hopefully we'll get it up to around 100. I move that the City Council adopt the recommended CIP project list as presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Would you like to speak to the motion?
I believe Councilmember Evans brought this up, but it's definitely something worth mentioning again, that this is just the start of this list. We don't have numbers yet, and as time goes on, we definitely want to take advantage of things. We have a number of projects that I think we have worked well with the city staff on in terms of we see an opportunity, we go for the grant funding, and we often achieve that with the fantastic staff that we have. So we want to keep being able to do that as it permits as we pull things up on the CIP list and push things down. Another thing that I think bears mentioning is we haven't had our offsite yet for this year, so I imagine the council will get together and hopefully we'll prioritize some of these and think through them a little bit more in depth, especially in terms of what needs to go first. Prioritization is a huge thing, especially given the amount of feedback that we've had from our community. I want to keep those things in mind.
Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're now moving on to business item 12, approval of a temporary pop-up dog park installation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Council. Super excited to present this item, and I will, even though it has city manager and my name, I will take the credit on putting this presentation, or at least presenting the presentation. I will take no credit on putting the presentation together. This is a temporary dog park installation. Just again, very briefly highlighting what was presented in the staff report, and give an opportunity to council to ask any questions you may have of staff. Just briefly, in terms of background, of course, we have heard the demand and strong community preference for an off-leash dog park, and we have heard that for years. And the permanent dog park is not yet funded or sited. This was an update was provided in August of last year, just to continue to focus on this request and demand, and also to provide some information to council on a permanent dog park. There was, of course, while we are working on the permanent dog park, there was a unanimous support from council for providing a temporary solution, and also as a to provide this amenity while we continue to look for a permanent dog park. So the opportunity was presented, and the opportunity came in form of a vacant parcel that the city purchased as part of the community center site. It is currently right across from the 133rd roundabout that is being built. There are the two properties, the two parcels that are considered for future NPRSA community center site. While the work is continuing to happen on the community center, this was a perfect opportunity to try out a temporary dog park, and also just the few reasons for the temporary dog park was, of course, it's closer to all the new residential development that is going on in the downtown, closer to the Homeward Pet Adoption Center, existing parking available on site for the parcel that is highlighted in pink. And also it'll have improved access with upcoming roundabout, which is actually coming along very well if you get a chance to go see the project. So those are some of the reasons why we thought this would be a good time to try out this temporary dog park at that parcel. Again, parcel highlighted in pink. So very initial, we did staff put together a project cost on this. There's the fencing for both the small and large dog areas. Access improvement, there are some minor access improvements needed. Wastage, of course, and supplies needed for the dog park as well. Based on what we have laid out, the total cost for the site prep and installing the fencing and other supplies, it's looking at $50,000. We wanted to do some outreach to ensure people know about the temporary dog park. So we have put some budget for it, and of course any contingency to address any unforeseen conditions. So looking at approximately $60,000 for this project. The reason why staff is bringing this to council because it is an unfunded project, and so we are bringing this project to council's approval. There will be, our staff has also reached out, and this was also presented in the August staff report, the ongoing maintenance for similar type and size of dog park is roughly 2 hours of our crew members' time. We anticipate roughly $1,000 per year on supplies and any other maintenance, especially wood chips and doggy bags that we would need for the park. This is an absolutely draft sketch, put together. Today is a credit giving day, looks like it, but it was put together by our maintenance supervisor, and he put a sketch which is similar to some of the dog parks that you see in Bothell and Kirkland. So definitely some inspiration from there. So as you see, the parking, as I mentioned, is already available on site. Access will be through that public street that you see there on the west side, and then, of course, the roundabout as well. And what other? I think, and these will be gated, fenced, of course, and a gate to separate the large and small dogs as well.
Councilmember Millman.
Yeah, a couple questions. The sand area, what's that all about?
Are you talking about
the sand pile by the by the building on the south end? It's not related to the dog park. We need a space to store the sand for our winter sanding operations while we're doing the covers and stuff over there. So it's not related to dog park. It's a separate use.
And then my other question: that building next to the sand pile, is there any plans for that, or is there anything that we could utilize?
Right now, we haven't talked about using that. I know our maintenance guys are chomping at the bit for more storage areas, so I think they're using some of that impromptu right now. The building that is on the left or bottom left corner of the large dog area, this would propose taking at least one side of that off. It's just sheet metal siding that's on a pole building, and making that open area for people using the large dog area. So we could probably put a couple picnic tables in there and have kind of a shaded area for users there. The other piece, and maybe I'm even preempting Councilmember Evans' question, on the north end there, you can see kind of a delineation, and that's the area that we're working on, the Milwaukee Forest project. So you can kind of see a separation there. The area outlined in black on the north end would be the Milwaukee Forest, and we've got area for access for when we do that construction project, which we're hopefully targeting the end of this year. So we'd have staging area and all that kind of stuff there. Maybe that wasn't the question.
Councilmember Evans.
Well, you preempted one of my questions,
okay.
So thank you for that. Okay, couple things. Is this going to be double gated so that people? Okay, and then you're not going to have to go through the large dog area to get to the small dog area, right?
That is correct.
Okay, and then my last question here is: I know Homeward Pet is currently using this to be able to exercise their dogs instead of walking up and down the street like they previously did. Are they still going to have access here? Because I want to make sure that we're not taking that away from them. It's a great benefit for all those shelter pets.
I will let.
Yeah. They'll be able to use it. It'll be open to the public, so they'll still have the access to the property.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please. Just wanted to give you some examples. We tried to preempt, but the slide was not before your question. But yes, just a couple of examples of what we are thinking of doing. Just exactly probably the similar gate and fencing as well for our dog park. Okay. And this is from Kirkland. This is Kirkland's, I believe, Snyder Dog Park. Scale is different, but as you see, there is the large dog area and then the small dog area. So we'll do similar. Some of our cost also includes providing some benches, seating a little bit just for folks who bring their dogs there. I think that we have already addressed or noted the benefits. Recreational amenity encourages community interaction, but I think even more important is collecting data for a future permanent park in terms of usage itself. If council approves this project and the funding for it, we anticipate completing the construction or installation of fencing and all by June, and then we'll open that up for public, and it is anticipated to be open year-round and not just during summer months like Bothell does. There will be period of time when we have to do some maintenance, but we will definitely notify the users and public, of course, and do that during off-peak time.
Thank you. Any further questions on this topic?
Seeing none, I move that the City Council approve the installation of a temporary dog park and authorize an expenditure of $60,000 and authorize the city manager to take all necessary actions to implement this decision.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Maker of the motion, would you like to speak?
Nothing to add. I think this is something that will be very exciting for our community. It's definitely a well-requested thing. Instead of using some of the temporary dog parks, we can move to an official temporary dog park.
Councilmember Edwards.
Thank you. Yeah, this is going to be an absolutely very helpful thing for our community here. As we've grown multifamily housing, this is something that we've been really missing here because a lot of these people who live in this multifamily housing have pets, dogs, but they might not have a yard or somewhere where they can let their dog off leash to really exercise and have bonding time with their pets off leash and enjoy nature as well and provide exercise for the pet. I will say outside of here, I'm a former board member for Homeward Pet, and that's one of the things that really did come up. Finding opportunities to really, in this city, is tough. There's not many of them available, and this is something that's been needed for years, and I think the community will really be able to appreciate it and utilize it, and will give us data points for future preparation if we do want to go with a permanent space in the future. So I think this is a great first step.
Councilmember Evans.
Thank you. This is something I have been after the city manager for 5 years, so I'm super excited this is coming up. And I just wanted to know, is there any opportunity for the business community to participate with this at all? Because I know we have a number of pet adjacent businesses that may be interested in a way that they could participate. I know, I take my dogs to Marymore all the time, and they have the nonprofit soda, Save Our Dog Areas. And they have hundreds of volunteers that show up, people who are donating a lot of stuff given to make sure that those areas are. And I just wanted to see if there was an opportunity at all, or if that just hasn't even been thought of yet.
I think not for the initial installation. I think the initial installation is to get, the goal is to get it going up and running. But I think that similar to our other parks and open spaces where we have, where we do invite volunteers to help with whatever help that we can get, I think that we would welcome the same opportunity at this location as well. But at this point, we have not explored that.
Yeah, and I'm fine with getting it up and running. I just know I'm going to get asked about it. The other piece too is once we introduce this benefit to the community, we should probably be thinking about where we could potentially down the road have a permanent installation because as Councilmember Edwards said, there's a lot of people that we're bringing in here in multi-family housing, and they love their pets and they want a place they can just walk to. And everybody in this community, I mean, I drive a half an hour over to Marymore multiple times a week. I would love to just stay right here, and I know a lot of people feel that same way. So just want to put that out there, not to add more projects, but good to always be on the lookout. Thank you.
Councilmember Millman.
Yeah, I'd piggyback on what Councilmember Evans said. I think there's opportunity, for example, just off the top of my head, Homeward Pet, they could do some advertising. I know that recently they've had a problem with food supplies. Their shelves are pretty bare, and I think you're going to get a lot of pet lovers down there, and I think there's an opportunity for people to donate to Homeward Pet. I think you could have Pet of the Week or Pet of the Month advertising there. There's dog groomers. There's all kinds of things that I think would be would enhance the pop-up park. So.
I will just add my comments that I think this is a very much needed and desired amenity in our community, and I'm very excited that we have an opportunity to bring it online so quickly with relatively low expense with this temporary installation. And I think it is also a really good use of some property that we have acquired that is not being currently used for any other purpose. So there's this window of time while the NPRSA is working on the community recreation center project, that property is vacant. And I think this is a fantastic way of activating it, fulfilling a community need, and also providing a space where we know dog parks bring people together. That's where they socialize, that's where they make friends, and I think this is a fantastic opportunity at a relatively low cost for our community. And I would just also add that we need to start thinking, once we bring it, we can't make it go away forever. So we need to start thinking about where in the city we might be able to permanently locate a space like this. Councilmember Edwards.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to build off Councilmember Evans' point there. In terms of, I think, partnerships in the future, even if there's nothing directly there, in terms of education of resources, I think there's an opportunity there in particular. For example, was mentioned Homeward Pet before. What they do run is they run a food bank, which feeds 1,300 families, pets per year. And having that resource available to our community, just the education of that, I think is a great way to partner with the business community and things of that nature, because they get a lot of donations that they may not be able to use in their own shelter because of certain policies of the type of food they feed and that stuff, but they do receive a lot and they distribute back to the community through different ways there. So I think there's a lot of resources because that keeps people's pets in their homes. A lot of times people may have to surrender the pets because they don't have the resources, and it's these type of resources that may be able to allow them to keep their pets together.
Further comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And dog lovers rejoice. We will now move on to business item number 13, review public parking availability and discuss parking restrictions in downtown and the tourist district.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, I will try to give it a shot at this item, but we'll be looking for city manager support in presenting this item. So today we are presenting downtown and tourist district parking availability and restrictions, and this item was requested by council, so we are providing information and look forward to discussion on this. As I mentioned, the council requested review of public parking conditions, especially in focus with downtown and tourist districts. Goal was to understand the supply, usage, and policy options to ensure that these parking spots are available for businesses, are available for what it is intended to serve, versus just providing for an overnight parking or residential parking. So this is the goal, or our understanding of this item and what we want to achieve with this item. So in terms of the parking restriction, this is just providing a high-level overview of some of the parking restrictions that we currently have in our municipal code. Of course, RCW allows cities to regulate parking. City does have a framework in our ordinance and Woodinville Municipal Code Chapter 10.3. Parking is allowed unless if, of course, it's restricted. Currently, the restriction in our ordinance, in our code, is in the industrial areas and school zones. And the school zones is very time limited, specifically more towards in the high school area. The industrial parking restriction is for heavy vehicles and ensuring that parking is available for public and not for businesses and overnight parking. So those are the two restricted areas currently in the city. There are no other restrictions that we have imposed on public parking. Currently, the penalty is $26 for not complying with this restriction. And I know we also have Sergeant Dodge here that can also talk more about the restrictions and enforcement and penalty as well. So I just wanted to make sure that if there are any questions on enforcement or ticketing or whatever that is, that we have, that can get addressed as well. Yes, please. So there are a couple of maps that we will present, and I believe these were included in the packet, in the staff report packet as well. This is the downtown area, and just looking at the parking, public parking that is available. Public parking is shown in green. The majority of public parking that you see is here at City Hall and Sports Field. Of course, the City Hall parking is restricted for employees, and there's also police parking during certain hours. And then, of course, the field parking, there's no overnight parking, restriction, but it is mainly for the field users and the parks, of course. There's some public parking along 133rd, right outside the City Hall, and there's also public parking that is available north of 173rd on 135th. We are also showing not necessarily directly city public parking, but also public parking in at Park and Ride that you are seeing on the rightmost corner here. The other public parking that you are seeing in yellow, especially along 135th, Wooden Creek area, and also 173rd, the one that is shown in yellow, while it is on public street, it is not within right-of-way. So the right-of-way is the one that gives the city the authority to enforce, if that is the direction that we want to do, or even maintenance or construction. The parking spots or the parking area, both along 135th, south of 173rd, right in front of Wooden Creek, that area, and 173rd, it is outside the right-of-way, but in an easement. So there is a potential, as you will see in the Tourist District 2, there is a potential for these easement. There are agreements with the city and the developer, in this case, Wooden Creek, for possible agreement or changes to those easements to do any restriction or any enforcement. Everything else highlighted, there are private parking, as you see, shown in the light purple, and of course the active and upcoming construction. The numbers reflect the number of parking stalls, approximate count on this. Okay. A similar map here for the tourist district, actually more focusing on the Harvest project and also near the roundabout. And as you see, there's a very limited public parking here, and the public parking is on the south end. As you see, Northeast 143rd Street, there is roughly 50 spaces in and around that area. The rest of the area, as you see, those are out of the right-of-way, but in a public access easement, and so would require potential modifications or amendment to do any restrictions or enforcement. Commercial parking, of course, is available here, but it is privately owned and often restricted. So the concerns, as I mentioned before, some of the concerns or challenges is that private easement, as I mentioned, they're open to public but privately maintained. City cannot currently enforce parking restrictions in those areas. The other concern that we are seeing is residents using public instead of private parking that's available. A lot of them also doing overnight parking, and that becomes difficult as well to use for either it is for businesses or other areas within the downtown corridor or tourist district as well. Inconsistent enforcement in private areas, of course, majority of the public spaces currently, it is volunteer compliance. There is no enforcement right now within the public area. So if we get complaints, the Woodinville police officers are addressing those, but there is no active enforcement in the public parking areas. Private enforcement in some of these areas is by property management of especially here in downtown, is by Wooden Creek, a little bit by Eastrail, by Main Street, and then of course the tourist district. Whether it's the perception of parking shortage or reality, this is based on information that is being presented here as in terms of lack of parking and turnover and demand. Of course, city does not have data to back that up, but it is the experience and community concerns that we have heard. So I wanted to make sure that we know that we haven't done any studies or evaluation in terms of the reality in terms of supply and demand. So I will, this is where I will pause, and hopefully city manager can jump in on this one as well. This is where the discussion hopefully council can have on policy consideration, because the reason I say policy consideration, a lot of the changes that council would like to make or propose would require, it would be a policy consideration, and of course would require code changes as well. So we can go over each of this bullet item, and council can discuss and provide direction or feedback to staff. If there are additional items that council needs to discuss or would like staff to consider, please feel free. These are some of the items that staff thought would be good points to discuss.
Councilmember Millman.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I'd like to clarify, I think one of the first things that we did here 2-3 years ago was no overnight parking in the ball fields. So that was a restriction in a public lot that, and it was kind of the same concern or the same, or similar to what was going on, was a lot of overnight parking that was going on there, which was restricting access to the ball fields, restricting access to the parks, restricting access to the businesses, et cetera. So that was actually a pretty successful endeavor. So I was one of the ones put this on the agenda, and what I wasn't thinking something elaborate at first. I was more interested in some of the green areas that we showed having 3-hour parking signs installed there, similar to what we did with the no overnight parking in the ball fields. I think that's the simplest and probably quickest and most effective way that we can start addressing some of that. And I pride myself on keeping a good pulse on what's going on in Woodinville, and the consternation is growing around parking, not only downtown. We've had council members not able to find parking here when there's a meeting, when there's events. I know it's tough for a city to park for the ultimate, celebrate Woodinville and ball fields and things all going on. I know you can't park for the biggest need 24/7, but I think on a daily basis we are not meeting those needs. I walk pretty early and around the city, and I know that some of our streets there's long-term parking going on, and I think it's gotten worse since the Wooden Creek project has started. In fact, there's construction vehicles that are parked, marked construction vehicles that are parked along 135th. Long periods of time, I've walked up and down the street there, and there's 25 cars at 5:30 in the morning. They're not coming to businesses. And I've talked to businesses locally that are having customers that are complaining that they're not able to find parking. Now, the parking garages, I can't attest to whether they're fully utilized at all times. They are not very intuitive all the time. So initially what I was looking for is those green areas, 3-hour parking signs, and I think that would alleviate some of it, especially now the construction's going on. The yellow, that was a surprise to me. Those are public streets. I had no idea that we weren't able to do parking signs on that. I have talked to Wooden Creek, and prior to Mr. Widener passing away and their manager had left the company, they were interested in actually us taking that on and doing the enforcement on that. I don't know where that's at now because it's changed over. So I look at this, the quickest and easiest thing to do is the green areas, and I'd also throw in, we have an opportunity at Midtown. They're going to have some public roads there. So while we're at it, I think that we should probably address that. We also might want to think about doing the easier stuff too. I know we've talked about angled parking along Linear Park, and I think that's an area that's going to be needed as we're growing that park. So when we're discussing that, I think that should be a consideration. The Hollywood Schoolhouse areas are probably another next area that has some real parking challenges, and that has resulted as businesses have grown in that area from what they used to be a warehouse or something. They've grown to wine tasting restaurants that have longer and more intensive parking challenges. I got an email from Evergreen Hospital. There was an event there last week. They had a parking nightmare. I guess things were backed up. Emergency vehicles couldn't get through. They had some real parking challenges. It prompted an email. I forwarded it to a couple of council members. So I'm looking forward to some solutions over there. I'd like to see us maintain that lot and then build some type of parking structure there that could serve the whole Hollywood area, not just Harvest. And then I know that sometimes we have problems with the private lots. Now I know that we can't. We can only do so much to that, but there's a growing concern about parking. Trader Joe's is very popular. I think it's part of their business model where they have challenges of parking every Trader Joe's. I understand that, but we have some private lots that are. I know that I've talked to people that don't park at the park and ride. They park at private lots because their perception is that they don't feel that a car's safe. Then the businesses are harmed. And this is a unique opportunity while I'm thinking about it, where we get to serve the public. The public is frequently talking about parking challenges and unhappy with the parking situation in Woodinville. And we have an opportunity to serve residents. The businesses that rely upon people coming down, spending their money, are having parking challenges. I know some of them and I don't know whether it's the construction or inflation or tariffs or what's going on, but I know some businesses are suffering, and they're blaming it on the parking. Whether that's that or a combination of things, I don't know. But the public, businesses, and then the city benefits from sales taxes. So this is a win-win-win that I think that we should take up.
Councilmember Evans.
Great, thank you. Can we go back to the first one? So I agree that I'd like to take a look at the green areas, but not the park and ride. Obviously, we do. That's shaded in green. We don't want people not utilizing the park and ride. A few questions. So I've heard from the business community on both sides. So I've heard from the business community saying that there's a perception that customers can't get to them or are driving past them or are leaving because there's not enough parking. I've also heard from business owners who are worried about us putting this in place because they're worried that the people who are now parking for the whole day on the street are going to come to their lots and take, and it's fair. I know Councilmember Millman was saying, we've heard from people that say that they park in the lots around the park and ride instead of at the park and ride because they don't feel that their car is safe there because there's not enough cars there. So I think we have some unique challenges, and I also I think it's an opportunity to reach out to some of our private property owners that have that parking to see how we could kind of partner together to make this work for everybody so we have people coming in and out. And in the private lots, they can decide if they want to have employee parking. There's all sorts of things they could do. My big, not question, and it's not going to be answered by this, but how do we get people to use like the park and ride more instead of, and just, walk a few blocks instead of all trying to cram into just a couple hundred spots where there's hundreds of people that want to come in and out all the time. And that's a bigger question, and maybe something that we think about as we're at Celebrate Woodinville this year. I mean, I didn't realize there were 459 parking spots on the park and ride. That's a lot. And it's literally like a block to Trader Joe's from there. That's a lot of parking right there. And not that I want to take it away from the park and ride, but right now it's very underutilized. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities here for engaging our business community, engaging our community at large, helping to educate people and help people see, we can move around this downtown core area in a way other than just in a vehicle.
Deputy Mayor Randolph.
Yeah, 2 points here. Number one, for those yellow areas, if I'm understanding correctly, those are privately owned. Not a lot we can do there. But given that it sounds like the business owners were looking for some level of support, I would be interested if, I guess, the businesses that are located there would find it useful to support us doing some level of enforcement and helping us actually maintain that. Largely because for us, it becomes a cost to do the enforcement, and that is a private entity. So therefore, if we could partner on that, that'd be fantastic if we could have enforcement in both areas with a lot of support from the existing commercial entities. Number two, following up with great recognition by Councilmember Evans, those 459 parking spots, we have said over and over again that area is underutilized. I would love to see some form of transportation. This is when we start talking about our circuit bus, something where people come to Woodinville. We talk about constantly, we want people to stay for a little bit longer. If they park there and they are having a great time and they have to wait 30 minutes for another bus, they might go into another shop. What that does is give us an opportunity to give places for people to park, and regardless of where they want to go in the city, we need to make sure that they have transportation and a way to get there. And I think that presents a huge opportunity for all of our concerts and all of the local businesses. And I think we've been talking about it for a very long time. There are people who are no longer on the council who would definitely agree. So just those 2 points, I think those are two things that we need to take into consideration.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe take a look at doing a Park Woodinville master plan, like our parking plan for visitors coming in. A lot of towns have that, and we could probably use technology for a little bit there as well. If we know how many cars are parked, how many openings, where they're at, then we're adding some value. And if we start doing any kind of charges, at least we're having value of directing people to where openings are at. And I've seen parking lots where it keeps a count and says, full, or we have 3 spots over here, just to get an idea. Don't want to see enforcement, meter maids, or any type of, ongoing type of work. But if we can use some of the apps like, you might see in Maui, Portland, Santa Barbara, there's a lot out there that we could probably take advantage of to come up with a whole strategy and to invite people into town and how to park.
Councilmember Edwards.
Thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of great points were brought up today, specifically about a walkable city and creating a walkable city. I will note that I am supportive of learning more about this, but I do have concerns of any enforcement mechanism, if that's the way to actually address some of these issues here. And in particular, is now the right time? With all the things the city is currently working on and all the changes that are happening around the city, is now the time to take on this big undertaking of enforcement and all of this here. In terms of our priorities, I think that's a discussion we need to have. Again, I'm happy to learn more, but I do have big concerns about enforcement, and as well, is now the time in terms of priority.
I agree with many of the points brought up by my fellow council members. I think this is an issue that we are increasingly hearing about from community members, whether it's downtown or in the tourist areas, whether it's a specific event or simply, day-to-day shopping, that kind of thing. I agree that we need to work on some partnerships with the property owners for some of these developments. One of the things I really appreciate about this presentation actually is the map of where the parking spots are located. And I think one thing that we could do is just start putting some of this information out for public consumption. I think when you start highlighting to community members where big lots like the park and ride are and how many spaces actually exist there and that it's free public parking, you can kind of help drive a little bit of behavior change simply by highlighting, look at all this available parking right here. You don't have to drive in circles in this lot. You can just go right here. So I think sharing some of this information, I know that as a council, about 4 or 5 years ago, we considered doing a parking study here in the city, and we didn't feel that the time was right at that point because we were experiencing so much construction and growth, particularly with Harvest coming online. We didn't feel like it would really capture whatever the demand would be at the time. But I would like council to potentially consider what a good timing for a study for citywide parking might be. That's certainly something that we can bring up in our council retreat in a couple of weeks, just what that timing might look like and how we could plan for budgeting for that study in the future. I think as a short-term solution, because obviously that is not something that will happen immediately, nor will we have data immediately. I know that there are some nearby cities that have put up signage allowing overnight parking, but restricting it to hours like 7 to 7 or 9 to 9, thereby meeting both the need for residents to park overnight who might live in that area and the need for businesses to have parking that is open during the day. So I would consider, rather than just saying no overnight parking, but allowing overnight parking with very restricted hours, and then keeping parking moving throughout the day on those public spots so that you're not going to have someone sit in that space for 24 hours, but during the day it's available every couple of hours, and then at night for the residents who might be living in the area, they can park overnight, or a guest or whoever. So I think those are some considerations, and I would like to see, I do think it is a challenge because with any signage or any policy about restricting parking, we do have to have the conversation of enforcement, because as soon as you put up signage and people realize that it means nothing, then your signage means nothing. So I would be curious what the enforcement options might be, whether it's technology, whether it's individuals going out and looking, or what other mechanisms that we have. I think Councilmember Edwards is correct that some of them are definitely need a lot of caution when implementing. So it would be interesting to see what the options are for a city. If we decide to start putting up signage, we need to consider the cost and the benefits of enforcement alongside that. Councilmember Millman?
Yeah, so when I'll go back to the ball fields here. So when this became a problem, there was, I counted fairly frequently, 50, 60 cars in the lot here overnight. Early in the morning, you'd walk by and there's 50, 60 cars here. Putting the no overnight parking limited that. I would say it got down to like maybe to 20, something like that in that ballpark. I don't know the exact number. And then our police officers put these pink warning signs to the remaining ones, and I think that that took care of the vast majority of that. And so the enforcement was very little, and to my knowledge, if there has been somebody towed, I'm not aware of it. I don't think there has been anybody, and if it's been very small numbers. So again, I would hate, I think all of that's good. I think a parking study is good. I think longer term, we're talking about possibly parking structures here and the lot that we have in the Hollywood Schoolhouse area. I think those are all good, but we have a need right now, especially with construction going on right now. There's a whole street here blocked, and this is going to be going on off and on summer, and we're going to run into Celebrate Woodinville, and we're going to run into the farmers market and all these things. And right now, the city of Woodinville is building a bad reputation for parking, which we need people to be able to confidently or feel confident that they can come to Woodinville to a different event, different venue, restaurant, whatever the case might be, and actually find a spot. I mean, there's lots of people that I see them on social media, I talk to them in person, that simply just say, I can't find a place to park. And whether that's true or not, again, there could be spots in the garages somewhere, but it's just not, I'm very familiar with them, it's just not intuitive to find them and hunt them. So part of that, when it becomes inconvenient, people have lots of choices, and we don't want them to make the choice of, like, I don't want to come down and go to XYZ to get dinner, to have coffee, to whatever, because I can't find a place to park. And that doesn't serve our citizens very well, that doesn't serve the businesses very well, and it doesn't serve the city by loss of sales tax revenue. So what I'd like to see is a shorter term, easy fix, or a positive movement of just 3-hour parking in the green, and then a longer term study on what we can do on some of these other areas. At least I think if we do this, if we move fairly quickly, we can do this before the summer, when people are really going to different things and the people are outside a lot more. If we wait to do the perfect and get some rid of in the way of the good, we'll be talking about this a year from now, waiting for a study, and we'll pass the whole, and we'll just get lost revenue, we'll get lost reputations in businesses. And I don't, one of my main goals is I don't want the city to be responsible. Running a business is tough, and I don't want us to be have any responsibility for a business failing, because we have not taken on the challenges as we've grown as a city of parking. And the parking situation, again, downtown, and we have council members that can't find parking for council meetings sometimes, and in the Hollywood Schoolhouse area has become very, very problematic. So I'd like to see us, just take these small steps, and then medium term, and then longer term.
I would just add, I agree that we need the short term and the long term, and I think that our long term look at parking needs to be framed within that conversation of transportation. That the long term parking solution is not just build all the parking. It has to be a solution that takes into account other transportation opportunities that we may or may not be able to bring to the city, to move people around, so that we're not just ever increasing concrete for storage for cars here in downtown. And any last comments on this? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I just have to go on record as being genuine support of that, because there's a disconnect. There's not that we don't have enough parking, it's that we have a disconnection between the parking and the places where people want to be. And the connector is transportation. It's not an additional parking lot. So we can, and we've talked about this prior to now, how much parking lots actually cost, how much a parking spot costs a business. If we continue to build parking lots in places where businesses can be, I think that's to our own detriment. So if we're getting people where they want to be, to our local businesses, in a fantastic way, I think that is the solution. Transportation is the connector, not the parking spot. And everyone wants to park at the first parking spot. So any parking lot that, even if we build a gigantic parking lot, the people that have to park on the far end will say they cannot find parking. So starting with the idea of getting people where they want to be and figuring out the best way to do that is probably the way to look forward.
All right. I think, do we have what we need to maybe come with the next step here?
Yeah, sure. I think we'll have to go back, kind of process and think about kind of what some proposed next steps might look like for you. There, like I said, Council's talked about, there may be some kind of interim, more immediate steps, and then maybe some longer term proposals. But we'll have to kind of think and and come back to you with what some of those options might be.
Okay. I think we can, as long as we're looking at both short-term, immediate, and like a longer-term solution, I think we're good to move forward with that. All right. Then I think we can move on to public comment for this evening. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm like the outside looking in, and I just want to make some comments. I think the graphics are really effective, and I like the numbers that you use. It really gives a clear picture. In the permitting process for buildings, you can include parking in the discussion for doing that, adding parking. And as a recommendation, I would suggest tonight is that area where Mobox was, put a parking structure in that location. That's a central location of the city. It's away from all the existing, and you could have shops and stuff on the main ground, but then have this parking structure to filter in all the cars. I think that's something that you might want to consider. And my last question is, when's Trader Joe's going to open up?
I believe they announced their opening date as May 15th through 17th.
Thank you.
One of the most common questions here in the city of Woodinville right now. Reports of the city. Sorry, Mr. Amiri.
My name is Bobby Amiri, and I live in the city of Woodinville. Thank you very much, Mr. Millman, bringing problem and trying to solve the parking. And you know that the businesses are going out of the business. And I heard that from so many people when I was campaigning. Maybe, I don't know how many people were saying that they don't want to go there. Therefore, and I'm proud of all of you. Madam Mayor, you understand the problem, you're massaging it and you're working with it. Thank you so much. And I think this was the nail in my coffin. And I appreciated that you're working on it because I see that parking is the problem. And by solving it by Mrs. Evans, thank you again. You always try to just find this spot and talk about it. Appreciate it. All of you. Sir Randolph, same with you. Thank you so much for working on it. I'm really, you know that I'm straightforward. If you're doing something and I disagree with it, I see it based on my experience. This is not based on my experience. This is what people are saying. And working on it, and I have to tell you, I appreciate that. I think people will appreciate it, not me. If I can tell you, people in Woodinville, you know it. You have done the survey. You know what I'm talking about. And today, I can breathe one step forward, for going forward. Thank you so much. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Reports of the city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, just a couple brief items. First of all, and I won't speak to the details. I'm sure council members would like to speak more to it. But our visit from Congresswoman Del Benny last week, I think it was last week at this point, fantastic. I think very effective. And again, I thank all the staff that put all the work in it, and obviously all the council that took the time to come out. I think, again, very effective. We continue building that relationship with our very supportive Congresswoman. So thank you for everybody that had a part of that. You may have seen our redesigned website launch today. If you haven't got to check that out, go take a look at that. We put out some public information about that. And then finally, and I checked the audience to make sure that they weren't here anymore, but the group about the Wooden Creek Park pickleball court, I'm glad they're not here because unfortunately we're going to be closing it in May 1st for about a month while we resurface it so that it's even better with, I think we're putting some more courts in there by the time we're done. So it's going to be even better, but it's a little temporary pain. May 1st through probably early June, we'll have that project done and then it'll be glorious. So that's coming up and we're putting all sorts of noticing up. There's signs up. We'll let everybody know, but I know it's still not going to be popular, but necessary. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Reports of council members. Councilmember Evans.
Great, thank you. On Thursday, the 23rd, so this Thursday, the East Rail Regional Advisory Council is meeting. It's virtual. Anybody can sign up and participate. Anybody can make public comment. You just have to sign up ahead of time. It's from 10 a.m. to noon, and we're going to have a report out of our offsite that we had a few weeks back. So that'll be great. The second piece is that we've been invited, if anybody on council wants to go, we're invited to participate in a tour of the Wilburton Trestle on May 8th, which is a Friday. It's from 10 to 11 a.m. I unfortunately cannot do it because of other work commitments, so if any of you want to go, let me know. You do have to wear closed-toed firm shoes, and you will have to wear a vest and a hat, so just be aware. But if you would like to go, let me know, anybody on council, and we can get you signed up. That's it.
Councilmember Edwards.
Thank you. Yeah, last week we had our Creative District Creative Collective meeting, and I'm just going to give one more shout out again for Saturday, April 25th from 1 to 4. If you want to attend the Earth Day event at the Green Partners Project or Molbach's parking lot, it'll be there. There's been hundreds of art pieces already submitted for their mural. So if you have not had a chance to contribute one, they'll actually have stations there where you can paint a mural. They'll be added to the fence there to be part of a community art piece. They let me know. I tried to say I couldn't do it because I have no artistic skill. So they will have stencils there available if you do not know how to paint. So feel free to participate either way. And I think it'll be a great art piece for the community right there. And as Councilmember Evans has asked for before, there'll be information too about what's the project's about and Woodinville being a bee city and all that there. So this will be a great community project. Come on out and feel free to paint a panel.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, so since we last met, I believe we had our Eastside Transportation Partnership meeting in person in Redmond. It was a fantastic time. First time that we actually got to see member jurisdictions. And we talked about legislative updates, all the things that came down from the legislature from the most recent session. And the most exciting piece was discussing the 2-line opening and the possibility of supporting a 4-line, which will be going between Sammamish and Kirkland. So as soon as we can get our own connection to that 2-line, which I believe Mayor Arndt is working on, we'll be very excited to have that in the mix.
Councilmember Wise.
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Councilmember Millman.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to meet with a prospective state rep and a current state rep in the last week, and I expressed some of Woodinville's challenges that we've faced in Olympia, and hopefully that they will be future allies with that. One of them was the taking away of local decision making, and I expressed some of our desires regarding that. One of them was parking. We went down there to talk about the parking last year and some other things, but I think it went pretty well, and I think they'll keep Woodinville in mind.
Councilmember Taylor.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
I have a long list, but it's been a busy couple of weeks with our visit from Representative Del Bene, and the Deputy Mayor and myself and staff are leaving first thing in the morning tomorrow to visit DC, to visit all of our delegation again and advocate for some funding on some of the projects here in the city. I also wanted to highlight last week the NPRSA meeting took place, and we received, the NPRSA received a report on the Community Aquatics and Recreation Center and what potential staffing and cost of that facility would be. And so that is just one more piece of information that is coming forward as they're working through their process to bring that forward to voters in the near future. And I think using that property as a dog park in the meantime is a fantastic use of that city investment there. And then the one other thing I wanted to highlight on April 25th, as well as our Earth Day community art event, there also will be a Liberty Tree ceremony, a dedication of a tree in DeYoung Park in celebration of our nation's 250th anniversary. And that is at 9:30 in the morning. So if you're up bright and early, you can come to DeYoung Park, be there as we plant a tree, and then stay in the afternoon for some community art and food trucks. Now, unfortunately, we will now be going into an executive session. City Council will adjourn to a closed session for approximately 30 minutes for the City Manager's annual performance review. This is RCW 42.30.1101G. No formal action is expected to be taken. Thank you.
The city council needs to extend the executive session for another 30 minutes.
The first year he brought a tie because I hated wearing ties and I never didn't like wearing them, so he brought one. You gotta wear one here.
Oh, boy. No formal action was taken.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.